Okay, so today I want to bring to your attention a growing problem around the world. This is concerning the vast amounts of electronic waste that we are producing each year. I became aware of this issue when I recently read an article published in National Geographic magazine. This article opened my eyes to the big problem, and that it is a problem that we don't pay much attention to. So Chris Carroll, the author of the article titled High-Tech Trash, tells the story of a young man in the capital of Ghana, Accra. His name is Israel Mensah, and what he does for a living, he recycles copper that he strips from old computers and televisions. The key to making money is speed, not safety. The gas goes to your nose, and you feel something in your head. Then you get sick in your head and your chest. Israel says while he knocks his face against the back of his skull. This is because the waste contains harmful substances like lead and cadmium, which is carcinogenic and damages the lungs and the kidneys. One of the causes of this growing problem is that according to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, an estimated 30 to 40 million feces will be thrown out in the next few years. But this is not the only source of the problem. With the future switch from analog to digital television, about 25 million televisions are taking out of service yearly. Also, according to National Geographic magazine, 98 million cell phones were thrown away in 2005. The problem with all this e-waste being discarded is that most of it ends up in landfills or in developing countries like Ghana. According to National Geographic, it is estimated that more than 70% of discarded e-waste will end up in landfills despite state laws that prohibit dumping of e-waste. Even when people are conscious about this problem and recycle their e-waste, instead of throwing it away, dropping your electronic gear off with our recycling company or at a municipal collection point does not guarantee that it will be safely disposed of, explains Chris Carroll. This is because while some recyclers make the effort to dispose of your e-waste safely, some recyclers sell it to brokers who ship it to developing countries, and they end up in landfills where little kids have to strip the burning plastic off the copper, and that's what makes them sick. There have also been some initiatives to regulate the dumping of electronic waste. And in 1989, the Basel Convention, 170 nation accord, required that developed nations notify developing nations of incoming hazardous waste shipments. And in 1995, protests led to an amendment of that law, which forbade hazardous waste shipped to poor countries. Even with all the efforts of environmental conscious people, e-waste continues to be dumped on landfills, and it keeps getting shipped to poor countries, creating health problems for the people. Today I made you aware of some of the causes that lead to e-waste being dumped on landfills and shipped to poor countries. I also gave you evidence of some of the practices that exacerbate the problem, and I outlined for you some of the laws that have been put into place to stop electronic waste from being dumped on landfills. I hope you take this information into consideration next time you want to buy a computer or a television and you want to get rid of your old one. So now you know, even if it costs you a little bit of money to recycle it properly, it's better that it ends up in a landfill or a computer. Thank you.
All right, your topics are identified pretty clearly. I think you could have something a little bit more interesting to draw us in. The thesis needs to be a little sharper. I didn't really catch the preview. It probably needs to be a little bit sharper, but at the end of the speech, I thought you had a really excellent summary of what the key points were that you were trying to make, and there was some good content in the speech. I think it probably needs to be developed a little bit more because it ends up being a little short, and I think that's not because of your presentation rushing or any of those sorts of things. I just think that there are additional ideas and information that could be put into the speech. On the presentation, I thought your facial expressions are pretty good. You're a little inconsistent about looking at the audience because you are script dependent, and I think that's problematic, but when you do look up, you are looking around at the audience. It's easy to hear you, and there's good variety in your voice, which is nice because you don't always get that when people are reading. I thought you did a good job with the vocal elements. If I wasn't looking at you while you were giving the speech, I wouldn't notice that much about the reading. If I was just listening to your voice, I think you did a pretty good job at it. But when I do look up at you, you're inconsistent with the eye contact, and you're really, you don't move much. There aren't a lot of gestures. You're holding on to the cards with both hands sometimes, and when you're holding on to it with only one hand, the other hand goes kind of behind your back, and so it looks a little bit like you are uncertain about what's going on there. I think you needed to prep a little more on the presentation issues. Put this down. You start off with your legs crossed, so it looks a little bit awkward at the very beginning, and you stand about as far away from us as you possibly can without running into the screen, and it makes it look like you are a little bit intimidated by the audience. And you never move from that spot either, and so again, you don't look nearly as animated as you should. All right, thank you.